Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Technique Special, second edition, Chicken Fabrication. Today, we're going to butcher a chicken. We're going to learn to cut it into different portions for different cooking purposes and make a beautiful chicken stock, roasting the chicken carcass along with some chicken backs, necks, wings, and other parts to make a gorgeous chicken stock. So let's start out. Let's talk about the knife we're going to use, a flexible boning knife. This one here is actually not a flexible boning knife, but it does have that thin tip, which is offered by a flexible boning knife that will help you maneuver in between the joints of the chicken. Something very important to do is have a dry bird and a dry board. Use paper towel to dry off the chicken itself, front and back, and keep your cutting board nice and dry. This is to make it easier to cut through the chicken and also for the purposes of safety. Safety first. Once you have your chicken laid out flat on your cutting board, go ahead and stretch out some of the limbs and the joints. Since it's been in packaging for quite a bit of time, it needs a little flexing so that it's much easier to maneuver around all of the joints. Press down on the breastplate nice and firmly, and then that will flatten your chicken out so that we're ready to cut it and it doesn't wobble around while we try and cut. Very important, slip a damp paper towel underneath your cutting board so that the bird does not slip while you are cutting. And we're going to start out going in between the joints of our wing. Again, we're going to find the joint. We're going to cut right through. And this whole process, you'll notice it's all about cutting in between the joints and not through bone, which would not only mess up your knife and make it dull, but also create a safety hazard. So cut through that wing bone, separate it out, and we're going to lay it on our roasting pan lined with foil. You can go ahead and preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit so that we can roast our bones for the beautiful chicken stock. Moving on to the other wing, we'll flip our bird upside down to give us access to the best possible viewpoint and vantage point to cut through that joint again and separate our wing. And now we'll flip our chicken around, and usually in the cavity, you'll find a neck bone right here, which is delicious when it's roasted and used for stock. Sometimes there will be giblets. This one does not have any, so we have no problem there. This little tailbone here is something we're going to go ahead and trim right off. And again, if you just find the right joints, you can cut through with ease, and we'll use that to roast for stock. Our next step, we're going to separate the leg and thigh portion from the breasts and the carcass. And as you can see, underneath in the cavity of the chicken on both sides, there is usually some excess fat that we're going to trim away because it would not render out during the cooking process. But you can keep that for later, render it out with a tiny bit of water, and it will give you a beautiful schmaltz or chicken fat that you can use as a cooking medium. Next up, we're going to go right in between that leg and thigh portion and cut alongside, doing the best possible job we can to maintain the majority of the skin for the breast, which is important since during the cooking process that skin will shrink. And once you begin to open up the leg and thigh portion from the breast, you can see where all the joints are that connect it to the carcass. And you simply use gravity as well as the tip of your knife to begin guiding it through and separating the leg and thigh from the carcass. And it's really helpful when you turn the bird over. You can see on the skin side exactly the shape of the leg and thigh portion and makes it a little bit easier to visualize what we're cutting. So again, continue making these knife cuts down through until you are able to get right through the joint, the ball and socket joint between the leg and thigh and the carcass, and slice right through on your cutting board to remove it. Then flip the bird upside down again to give you a nice vantage point and leverage to remove the other side of the chicken. Use the tip of your bony knife to maneuver in between the breast and the leg and thigh portion. And then again, just simply use gravity, a little bit of wiggling and finagling with the knife in order to easily separate the leg and thigh from the carcass. And then you can just simply slide your knife right through. Again, we're not cutting through bone. We are locating those joints that will allow us to locate the best possible place to slice our knife right through without a struggle. Now, once you have your leg and thigh portions separated, we're going to want to cut right through the middle, again locating the joint so that we're not cutting through bone to separate the leg from the thigh. Go ahead and do the same process with the other side. It's easiest to put it skin side down so that you can easily see where the leg and thigh connect. And we'll store those in a zippable plastic bag, put them in the freezer so that we can use them to either braise for a fricassee style or even potentially do a little fried chicken action in a future episode of Pursuit of Passion. And now we take our chicken breasts. So in between is the keel bone. We're going to want to cut right down into that bone, exposing the bone, and then we'll simply angle our knife against the bone to begin removing the left side. And all you're doing is using clean, smooth motions to begin to separate the breast from the bone and the carcass. And there you can see the actual location of that wing bone, which on this particular breast we will leave intact to create a sort of airline chicken breast just for presentation purposes. And it does help a little bit enhance the flavor of the chicken when you cook it with the bone. So once you have cleaned the underside of that chicken breast of any excess cartilage and fat, we can flip it on the other side and trim off the cartilage attached to the wing bone, and then we will very carefully maneuver the knife around the middle of the wing bone, which will help separate the skin attached to it. And then we can simply scrape upwards and slide that meat right off. If you need to, you can use a paper towel to help remove the excess skin from that, and it will reveal a beautiful, cleaned bone that will not only enhance the presentation and the aesthetic appeal, but will allow it to cook evenly with the bone, giving it more flavor. Now let's go ahead on to the other side, the right side of our chicken breasts. And again, angling the knife against the actual keel bone so that we don't slice into the flesh to begin our incision. And then we flip it upside down to give us leverage. And we're just simply using, again, gravity to gently pull on that breast to help separate it, along with some nice even strokes with our knife. Find that joint, and this time we're going to cut in between that wing joint and just remove it entirely. Trim some excess fat as well as cartilage from the breast. Give it a nice trim to shape it up, and we have a beautiful boneless chicken breast. And there are two styles of chicken breast preparation that will be fantastic for cooking. Now, the carcass I like to break up into pieces that will cook and roast evenly. And we'll lay those out on our pan. In addition to these parts, since we're making chicken stock, I figured why not make a lot of chicken stock? What's better than making chicken stock than making a lot of chicken stock? So I purchased some backs and necks. That's what you're going to look for. These came from Whole Foods. Thank you for the pristine quality. And we're just going to arrange them neatly and put those in that 375-degree oven until deep golden brown. And now for our aromatic enhancements to this beautiful chicken stock, we use what's called mirepoix. That's onions, carrots, and celery in a ratio of 2 to 1 to 1. I like to put garlic because I just love garlic, so why not? And fresh herbs that will help enhance the flavor as well. In this case, we're using thyme, sage, and bay leaves. And after about 5 hours of cooking, you will see we're at a nice simmer. That's when we are going to add in our aromatics. The aromatics really only need 1 hour of cooking. After that, if you continue to cook the aromatics after that hour, well, you're basically infusing overcooked vegetables into your stock, which of course we don't want. So the total cooking time for this stock is about 6 hours. Once you're all set there, you can simply strain your stock after the 6 hours is up. Discard the aromatics, the vegetables, the chicken bones until you have that beautiful chicken broth that we will use. And you can also cool down quickly and then freeze for later use. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel Pursuit of Passion. Give a like to this video if you enjoyed it, and check out other videos that I've put out there. Let me know what you think in the comments section. If you have any suggestions for videos, go ahead and drop those in the comments section as well. And stay tuned for our next episode of Pursuit of Passion, where we cook these chicken breasts with a beautiful array of vegetables, starches, and sauce. Thank you, and please be well on your pursuit of passion.